Hello. My name is Emery. Welcome to Coding Australia. This project is called Canvas.
Alright, so let's welcome to Canvas. We're going to look at some of the basics to start with, and then we're going to look at some scratch and compare, and then we may just move on to a little bit of animation as well down the track. We'll see how we go. It may not appear straight away, but it'll certainly turn up on the website eventually. So in front of you in your editor is about as bare bones as you can get when it comes to declaring a canvas. Up here we have a basic style, and there it is declared. So it has a yellow background and it's got a black border. Down here we need to actually declare the canvas. It's going to be 600 by 600, and if you've got an up-to-date browser you may not need that bit, but we still leave it in there just in case someone's still using Internet 4 or something. If it is, go get a new browser. And they are the basic two start-off scripts that you need, those two variable declarations, and that's it, and you're away. Now if you save that and open it in your browser, I've saved it as basic, you'll get that. That's what it looks like, a 600 by 600 square. That's it. Alright, and we can put some shapes on there, but before we do that, the next thing we can do with this is this, and this is just saving this bit, changing it, I beg your pardon. So if you change the declaration, it says black border and centered, this will center it for you. Down here nothing's changed, so you just change that style by adding those two extra bits there, like so, and you'll wind up and it'll look like, it will look like this. So it'll be in the center, and we might just carry on in the center and then we might move back. But anyway, that's the easiest way to center your canvas on your browser window. Okay, now back to here. So that's what it looks like centered. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw some shapes on there. Let's have a look. Down to there everything is exactly the same. Then we start adding some shapes. Alright, there's a comment. All of our canvas statements are prefixed with the CTX dot or context. At the moment it's CTX. You might see it flip over to context. If you're going to use context, you've got to be consistent. So what are we doing? We're drawing some lines, we're drawing a rectangle, we're drawing a triangle, and we're drawing a circle. So remembering all this stuff in your head is a bit daunting. I certainly don't. If I need to do, when I'm doing canvas stuff, I go away and have another look, find out what it is I need just to remind me of what's going on here. And so there are a couple of slight variations as well on the way things are done here, just to show you. For example, the triangle, you can still get the triangle, but you just declare it in a slightly different way. Okay, here it's just a straight draw. Here it's a declaration of a triangle using the path. There's a lot of reserved words in Canvas. There, these are all lovely reserved words. You don't have to worry about all that. You just do what it says and you get a result. So if that all goes in correctly and you type it in correctly, then you'll get that. So there's your lines, there's your rectangle, there's your triangle, and there's your circle. And the last thing we'll do here is this. I'm just going to do this, and it looks exactly the same. And you go, so what did you do? Well, this is what happened. We gave it a little bit of structure. So this is exactly the same, that's exactly the same, that's the same, but down here we call up functions instead. So instead of just having a straight set of shapes being drawn, we give it a little bit of shape. Very handy to get into this fairly early, because what happens is this: if you comment out, say you're building something like this, if you comment out those 3 calls by doing that and save it and then refresh, they disappear, which is really handy when you're building stuff. That's why we're getting straight into that stuff straight away, so you can see what happens. So I go, oh yeah, well my lines are working, let's see if my rectangles are working. Okay, save again, go over here. Yep, I like the rectangle. Or you might say I'm going to move it. So I'm working on my rectangle and I might want to put it in a different spot. Alright, or I might want to make it a little bit bigger, and I might want to change the border to blue, for example, and I'm just playing with it here to see what I finish up with, and I refresh, and bingo, I've moved it down a little bit. Okay, so it's a pace to know what numbers you're changing here, because the way the rectangle works, it's a starting point here, and this is how high you want it. So if I make that 120 and do this, then I get a bigger rectangle. If I want to take it up a little bit, go back over here, play with it, then I can make this a bit higher or lower number, brings it up the screen a little bit. And then if I go back here and I go, well alright, well I'm happy with the rectangle, I'll now start working on the triangle. So you could comment everything out except the triangle if you wanted to. So you could put that back in and get rid of these, or comment them out I should say, and see what we've got now. Okay, so very handy doing that kind of stuff, and we'll do that a bit more later on. So I'll just put it back how I found it, and you can get all this in and make sure it's working properly, and then we'll move on. So continuing on with our canvas, up here it's pretty much the same, although we may have played with a couple of colours here. That's alright, and we may have made our margin slightly bigger. What we're doing here is we're putting in some text. So the same thing at the top, the declaration ID there, slightly different, doesn't matter as long as they match. Now each one of these, it's a bit over the top, I'll admit. So we declare the font that we want, that's declaring the font. This is declaring how we want it to look, and this is what we want it to say and where to say it. Okay, so right, and we just keep going down here, and what's happening is that until you change the font, you'll notice it stays the same, but you might get slightly different look at it, may look a bit different. Then we change it again, so font, fill style, fill text, say it there, stroke style, black, etc, etc, and then some extra stuff here, shadow color, ZX, etc, and then etc, etc. Alright, fill text actually says it and puts it where you want it. Okay, so you save that and it looks like this. So what you've done is actually written up here as well as the text. So you said I want red 30 px Arial, I want green 30 px Arial, but if you look over here I've got a stroke style, not a fill style. Stroke text, okay? So stroke and fill, play with that, watch what happens. There's a lot more than you can do than just what's sitting here like this. So there you go, and you can put it anywhere you want and you'll get, that's the text that you can play with. Okay, now you could make it a little bit more structural, a bit like the previous one that we did back here when we had the shapes. This one a bit more structural as well. You could do the same thing here if you want. to get what you need. So play with these. So for example, if I was to maybe change this to that right there, say put one number in and do this, it goes to that sort of whatever it is, violet. If I was to maybe come down here and get a bit more imaginative with the styles and stuff like that, so for example if I made this say 25px instead and saved it and hit the refresh button, they get smaller as well. Okay, all sorts of things. Position can be changed as well. So for example, you could have, at the moment you've got this one at 10. If I put that at 50 say, and put that one at 50 and save it and then refresh, they move a bit. Alright, so have a go at that, play with the text. So we've done some shapes and we've done some text, and what we'll do now is we'll just put them together a little bit. So there's the text one. I'm just going to grab the first bit out of there and I'm going to put it over into here, there. Okay, so this is your shapes one, and I've just put the same thing there, except I've done a couple of small changes. So I've changed the colour to black, and I've changed the words to what it actually is, lines. Okay, so that's the bit that's changed, and I've stuck it in a different spot. Now when you save it and open up and refresh, that's what you get. So it's telling you what it is. Now this one's rectangle, so I guess if we wanted to put that over there and maybe make it blue, then we'd go back over into here and pick that up and copy it down into the rectangle like this, and we can change the font if you want, but we won't. If we want to make it blue, we could turn that, make that, it's slightly dark blue, so maybe 185 perhaps. See how that looks, and I'll take a punt and try 480 and see how that looks. I'm guessing. You do a lot of guessing, that's fine. Guessing is good. And it says lines, but you want it to say rectangle, and you probably want it back here somewhere. That's good. So we'll go back over here and we might take say 100 off. It may not be enough, and we'll change this to rectangle and see how that looks. What have we got now? Rectangle, close enough. So lines, rectangle, circle and triangle. Let's try the circle. Maybe copy the lines and change the second value. This is the X, by the way, and this is the Y value, as we call it. X goes that way, Y goes that way. So horizontal and vertical. Over here, let's pick up the, well, we'll pick up the lines one again and put it down with our circle. We could do the triangle, we'll do the circle first, and that would be probably around about the same spot, but maybe 450. See how that looks. We'll just do a quick save to get our position sorted out, and then we'll play with it. Lines, a bit further down maybe. So first things first, we say we make it 550 and we make it circle, and the colour, what's cyan? Probably 025. It's a bluey cyan or blue. What is it? Yeah, it's probably cyan. So 0255, 255. I mean, you can go whatever you want. See how that looks. Save. Where are we? Circle, close enough. You can move it a little bit to the bit more, and then maybe our triangle, we'll just make it white. So we'll take this one because it's about the right spot down, put it back up in here for our triangle, leave it the same font size, make it white, change this to triangle, angle, and let's look at where our rectangle was. 380. I'm going to try 380, see how that looks. And yep, pretty good. So that's just how you can label your shapes, so combining a little bit of text with those shapes that you did. Alright, we finished off with this, drawing some shapes and labeling them, and the next thing we're going to do is, in fact nothing's going to look any different, but we're going to make another change to actually how we position things in a canvas. And what we mean by that, well, so far what we've got is a set of shapes labelled, and the canvas is sitting in the middle of the browser, so it's centered. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to use the dimensions of the 600 by 600, and we're going to move the origin, which sits there, down into the middle, so that means that our x values will go negative and positive and negative. Now that's because a lot of stuff that's done, animation and things like that, that's the way it's done. You kind of move your origin into the center. With Scratch, for example, it's in the middle, so we're going to do along those lines, and we're heading towards that, comparing the Scratch and Canvas stuff, and so this is the next thing we're going to do. Now, to give you an idea what I'm talking about, here's a diagram of what exists at the moment. A canvas grid, 600 by 600. These are the numbers, so if you draw something around about there, then your position would be 400 and 250, etc, etc. But if we translate the origin from there to the middle, then what we finish up with is it looks like this. And so when it's translated, you might say 50 minus 250 or something like that. The thing that makes it a little bit different to Scratch, if you like, is that the x is positive this way and positive that way, but the y is positive that way and negative that way. So by translating the origin down to the middle, then what we're doing is we're creating a negative region up in there for both the x and the y, and a positive region down here. So we've got to keep mindful of that, so that we don't get ourselves too confused. Alright, so now that's fine and dandy, but what does it actually look like when you put this or something similar to this in using that? Well, this is what the script looks like. Down here, this is the same original shapes script that drew a line, a rectangle, a triangle and a circle. However, there's one extra script line being put in, and that is it there, and that's what you say. Context translate 300 300. So we've got a 600 by 600 screen. We translate the origin to the middle, 300 300. And to get the diagrams in the same spot, you then have to start thinking along these lines instead. So you should probably go back to your original shapes and have a look and replace them once you've put this in with these new numbers. Or if you want to, save yourself a bit of bother and go straight to the second one, which has got that structure to it, lines, rectangle, triangle, circle, and put that in. And if you have a look, the start positions are different. The things like size and so forth don't change. So the rectangle has a starting point, and then how wide is it, how deep is it, and this is the same thing. So it just starts in a different spot. Here, same thing again. The triangle's down in the bottom right, if you think about it, so all the position numbers are positive. And the circle, which is on the left hand side, has a negative x value but a positive y value, so it starts in that position instead, but everything else pretty much stays the same. You've still got the same colours and stuff like that. So what you can do is make these changes, put that in and see what you get. Now I'm not going to bother too much about adding all this stuff in here. You can do that. So if you go to your translated shape, then you're going to have to translate the start and finish, the start positions for these texts as well, so that they still stay in the same spot. And I'll let you do that. And the other thing that I haven't done yet, and you don't have to do it if you don't, but you can if you wish, you'll notice that I've RGB'd up here but I haven't bothered to RGB down here yet. So you can leave them the way they are, or if you want to, you can RGB them instead. 000, 00255, 25500, etc, etc. So this is where we got to at the last time. You presumably have, with the translated origin, have worked out where to put the labels, or if not, maybe you should, just to figure out where things go. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to some more shapes that are a little bit more involved. So an ice cream, a window, a dog bone and a smile. And we will go to here's what's involved. Alright, with the structure. Alright, that's what it would look like without a translated origin. This is the one we're going to look at. So we're translating to the middle. We're going to draw a window. Now the window is made up of 4 what are called arcs, like that. We're going to start here and draw that one, then we're going to draw that one, then we'll draw that one, then we'll draw that one. And the thing is, one of the little things that you can do is when you draw these shapes is you don't actually have to draw the line between the arcs. So this particular one there, remember we've translated, so this window arc here starts at that spot, has a radius of 30 degrees and goes from there to there. 1 times math pi, or just math point pi, 1.5 times math pi, and it becomes your top left. Now to do your top right, you just go to another spot, so same spot, do your arc, put in the arc, and then go to the next one, 1.5 to 2, then 2 to 0.5, 0.5 back to math, and then back where you came from at the top. Alright, that's a slight, that extra, that's like 5 of them. So what you get to draw the actual window, you draw that arc, then it goes and draws that arc, then it goes there, then it goes there, then it goes back to where it started from. Alright, so it's a slight fudge, I suppose you could say, but it gets the job done. Stroke style and the fill style, and so that's what the window looks like. This is the bit you'll need to have a little bit of think about, because there's a fair bit of extra new stuff happening there. Now the next one is the ice cream, which is over here, and once again we're using the function, calling the function. So we call draw ice cream, but when we get to ice cream we get another function, and we split this into 2 bits. So we've got the cone, alright, which is the bottom bit, that's what the cone looks like, and then we've got the topping, and each bit is labelled here. So the chocolate stick looks like this, that's what it takes to draw your stick, and then they've got an arc, math pi 2 times math pi, okay, so that's half a circle, this is what you get, half a circle like that. Alright, and the good thing is it fills it in as well. So as long as you tell it the fill style, which is almost white, when you draw it, it'll do it, it'll fill it in. So you don't have to draw a line back to where you came from to get the actual ice cream to fill itself in. You can, but sometimes you start to discover when you do this stuff, oh, I didn't have to do so many different bits and pieces to get to where I want to go. So that's the topping. Like up here, that's the cone, so that will get you the cone. Now the next one we call up is the smile, and there's some new stuff going on here too, and that's been split into 2 bits. Function draw smile, make your line cap round, so that's the ends are round, and the stroke style is red. So you can declare all that in here, and then we have the lower lip and the upper lip. Now you might like to go, there's a link to the website for Canvas, and you'll find, if you want a really full-blown explanation of all the stuff that you can draw, I'm not sure how good your maths is, and if you've done quadratic curves and stuff like that. If you haven't, then you just accept that this thing works, because one of the one of the parts of the smile is a section of a circle. Section of a circle here. We've got a start angle and end angle instead, and then we put them in there. I could put 1.1 pi in here and 0.9 math pi in there, and I get the same result. We've just declared a couple of new variables there just to show you where we want to start and finish. This little chestnut, which has got hardly anything in there at all, gets you quite an interesting result. But you've got to go and have a look. I would think I'd send you somewhere else to go and find out about how the quadratic curve 2 works, because there is so much information there. And if you get that one right, then what you get is you get a smile. Now, one of these is a semicircle, or part of a semicircle, that one there, and this is a quadratic curve, like if you remember y equals x squared or something like that, and that's how you get your smile. That's how it works. And then finally, the bone. Now, this one you can probably work your way through. You can comment bits out. That's the best way to see what's going on here, is just comment pieces out. So comment everything out up here and just focus on the bone. Once you've got it in, once all the script is in, or as you put it in, probably better still, as you put it in. So if you create the bone, right, just the bone, what's going on here? Am I on the wrong one here? No, I'm not. Oh, I didn't save it. Thought I did. Alright. Okay, let's try that again. Right, so we're on our bone here, dog bone. So let's just go down and look at the bone. Here is the bone. It's all that's left. We've got a whole lot of arcs being drawn here, and they're not quite complete circles. And it's using the same sort of principle, if you like, as the window, and that is that if you draw an arc in one spot and draw an arc in another spot, what it'll do is it will go to the next spot and draw it. So the way this thing's working is it's drawing an arc, then it's going, drawing another, going there, drawing another. So wherever you position these parts of circles, that's how you get your bone. Alright, now the one thing that doesn't appear to be working here for some reason is I've added this gradient stuff in here and it doesn't appear to be working. So what I'll do is I'm going to take it out, and I'm just going to do this to save us a lot of bother, and I'm going to put an RGB in there like this instead. And let's see, the fill style, we might just lighten it up a little bit. So maybe if we make that 145, and that may be 110, and that one 25, so we can just, whoops, 25, so we can see the difference. So I'll just take that gradient stuff out for now, and let's see what our bone looks like. Remember, everything's commented out, so let's just see what we get. Yep, so there's your bone. Alright, now the other thing is this, and this is something that'll come up again, is sometimes when you fill in line style, things tend to overlap, but we'll have a look at that later. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's put everything back, and you can have a good old play with this. Okay, put it in bit by bit, build up bit by bit, check it out a bit at a time. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to draw what's in front of us here, which is the Android icon. It's going to be nearly like that, slightly different, and that gives you something to do later on when you want to have a little play with it. You'll see what you come up with here, and then you can go, oh, I can change that. Alright, so let's just go over and see what code we've got to start with. We're going to do this thing in stages. Okay, so it's called Android. This is what the canvas says, so it's got a yellow background and black border. Our ID is Android. It's 600 by 600. The first thing that's slightly different is that instead of using 300 you can say canvas.width, canvas.height divided by 2, and that will halve it. So if it was 800 by 800, the middle of it would be 400. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility if you wanted to do that. Okay, now let's just try work our way through here a bit. Our first part we're doing is drawing the antenna, and I've commented out the head, the eyes, the body, the legs and the arms, which are going to be down here a bit further. So let's just focus first of all on our antenna. Now, it's a very similar to the lines you drew way back when you first started drawing stuff. Very similar. The thing is that because you now translated to the middle of the page, the middle of the canvas, one line looks like that and the other line looks nearly exactly the same, except one's a negative, so the X's on the left hand side, and on the right hand side you want a 20 width line and your ends are round, and you put that in, and then when you have a look at it, it looks like that. So you're on your way. So you've got your two antenna drawn. The next one is the head. Let's have a look at the head. The head is a half circle, so let's just work our way down a little bit. Function, draw head. So we've got a variable called radius. We could just stick 150 in there if you wanted to. This is the arc we want. It's almost a semicircle. It's not quite. It's just under. So if it was 1 to 2, it'd be the exact semicircle. So it's just under that. And then there's a line that takes you back over to the other side. So it's solid. It would still colour it in with its fill, but we want the line underneath it as well, and those things will happen. So if we uncomment this and we save it and go back over here and refresh, we get the next bit. There's the head. Right, so now we're going to put a couple of eyes in there. So let's take the eyes and have a look at the eyes. Alright, now we could have split it up into left eye and right eye. So we could have had function, draw eyes, set up the radius, the fill style, and then created two separate little functions that you're going to see down there where the legs and the arms are, but this is all together here. So here's your 12. You want your eye radius to be 12, and the spot, the thing is that this is the center of the radius, so it doesn't really matter too much about whether they're false or true here. You just want to make sure that it starts at one spot and comes back to where it started from. 0, 2 math pi, so that's one whole circle. So we've got all that. We do these two bits like this, just put them in a different spot. One is minus 60, one is 60, and then when you save that and go back and have a look, you've got the eyes where you want them. Alright, next part's the body, which is going to be really basic. It's just going to be a square. Later on, up to you, you might like to put some arcs on the corners and stuff and join the legs up. They're separate little objects at the moment. So we take the body. Let's go and look at our body and see what we're doing down here. Very basic, very basic. Start in a spot, draw a rectangle. Now minus 150, 300 across, so it goes to 150, so that puts it in the middle. 220 down from minus 70, same thing. So what we've got here is we've got a square, exact square, which is what we want here. 300 by 300. So let's see, fill style green, back, it's already black, it's declared black further up. Oh yes, by the way, the stroke colour and stuff won't change. If you set a certain colour, it'll run all the way through at that colour until you change it. So the fill style might be changing, but the outside hasn't changed. It's black all the way. So let's go back up, make sure I uncommented it. I did. Save. Let's see what we've got now. There's our body. Okie dokie. Now, next one we want to do are the legs. So here are the legs, and if we go down to legs, body, legs, you'll see that here we've got a fill style and a line width. It's a bit bigger. You probably can go and play with that and find out why. It's still green. We've got a right leg and a left leg, and only the right leg's been done. So let's save that and see what we finish up with. Okay, so good. We want another one over here. So what we do is this: we copy the right leg into there, and we call it the left leg, like so, and we just replace all of these in here so that you've got the left one happening. And the other thing we've got to do is these are all negative, which is why it's over here. This is the middle. You want the other one over here, so you've got to take away all these negative x values or horizontal values, and then Let's see what we get. Alright, go back over here and we do it. What's happened? Oh, I need to uncomment it in there. It'd be a good idea. Let's try that. Now let's see what we've got. Goodness me, we have a problem. So what does that mean? Well, it means something's wrong here. Maybe if I make that false it'll fix it. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, not a chance in the wide world. Okay, let's put it back to the way it was. What about if we swap these over? See if this makes a difference. Change our start and finish point, see if that helps. And we may be getting there. Let's see what we've got this time. We're close, and we make this one false and save it. You've probably played with these already, hopefully. You can see what's coming. Look at that, wonderful stuff. So it's not just a straight get rid of the negatives, change it from right to left, blah 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 blah. You've got a little bit of extra stuff to do here to make the curve go the other way. So on one side the curve does that, on the other side the curve does that. So it does that and it does that. So it starts in a different spot and it goes in an opposite direction. Okay, that's what this stuff does. It puts you in a centre and gets you, that's the centre of your arc there. So it's like the centre of a circle. So sometimes if it's there you want it to do that, sometimes if it's there you want it to do that, and that's what this part here is doing. Alright, let's look at our arms. Now I've got, let me see here, we are going to do the left arm, and I've been really nice, and it looks to me as though I've put them both in even though I wasn't going to. Here they are. So let's just see if we've got what we want, because it may not be spot on yet. Let's see. Goes back up here. Always forgetting to uncomment. Good to know it's only a minor problem like that. The major ones are the ones worth looking at. Look at that. Got it straight away. You got so lucky. So but don't just stop, have a look. 200, 200, 200. Remember that when we were drawing the window, arc, 5 of them to get us back to where we started. So what this does is a top arc, a bottom arc, and takes us back to where we were before. Okay, same here, and the beauty of this is that it all works beautifully. You don't have to worry about which direction you're going. Up here you get into a bit of a strife because you've got to draw lines and an arc. Down here it's just 3 arcs. You find out where you want to sit in the centre, how big you want to make it, and it'll go either in that direction or it'll go in that direction. As long as you've got your spot right, it doesn't matter. So it's very similar to drawing that window in the previous one. So there you go.
Thank you too.